The Labour government took a step towards their plan for increased devolution shortly before the parliamentary summer break by introducing the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill to Parliament. In this video, I'm going to look at some of the key parts of that new bill and how they might impact you. Now, bills put before Parliament rarely have catchy or sexy sounding names, but the impact this bill may well have is to launch the biggest shake-up of local government in over 50 years. It's packed with a whole load of things, from how mayors are elected and how authorities work together, through to extending community right to buy on local assets. The first real thing to say is it's a 338-page bill which only impacts England. Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland will not be directly impacted by this bill due to their devolved government status. Now, I'm going to focus on the 4 parts that I think are important to know and understand now. But as other parts become more relevant, I'll probably revisit them. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to see any future updates or other videos. So the bill deals with 4 key areas: how elected mayors work, local government reorganisation, community powers, and then they slipped in some stuff about commercial leases for reasons. The first part we'll touch on is devolution. The bill supports the English Devolution white paper published last December, which basically sets out how the Labour government intends to deliver its so-called devolution revolution. This is basically what you hear me talking about when I talk about how all the district and non-London boroughs and city councils are being replaced by unitary authorities. There's a couple of videos on the channel about how well that's going in Worcestershire, and spoiler, it's not. As part of the devolution revolution, Labour have made it clear that it sees elected mayors as a key part of its plans, with Angela Rayner saying last year that the government aimed to make mayors a larger part of local government and wants to see them in place across the whole of England. So unsurprisingly, this bill has a lot to do with mayors and what they can do, whilst also laying out a standard framework aimed at making the devolution process easier to follow. Now, of the big changes in the bill, one that caught my eye was the return to supplementary voting systems for mayoral and police and crime commissioner elections. This allows voters to give a first and second preference. And yes, there is a video coming to our Explainer series on how that works. The local elections held earlier this year highlighted the problems that the first past the post system has, and some mayors were elected on ridiculously low vote shares. 2 of them with less than 30% of the vote. The bill will also ban dual hatters by stopping people from simultaneously being a mayor and a mayor of the Westminster Parliament or a devolved parliament such as the Welsh Assembly. So that's part 1 of the bill, mayors and how they are selected. But what about the areas they will control? Well, unsurprisingly, that's the next bit of the bill. The bill would establish a category of authority called a strategic authority. Now, this type of body already exists. Greater Manchester, London or the West Midlands Combined Authority are examples. But the government wants to eventually introduce a strategic authority for each area in England, preferably led by mayors. Labour would like this done by choice and by unitaries agreeing to work with each other. But the bill does allow the government or the Secretary of State to establish strategic authorities without local consent. Now, this is one of the areas of the bill where there is a lot of detail, and depending on other circumstances and area sizes, different levels of power and responsibility are available. So the lowest level has limited devolution and is for non-mayoral authorities. Middle layer allows for devolved powers for strategic authorities led by mayors. And the top layer is for mayoral authorities which meet top level requirements and have the broadest and greatest range of powers. These strategic authorities will have the power to oversee housing and strategic planning, something the government is keen on having as they have these big housing targets to hit. And mayors can override local planning decisions if the plan hits a strategic need for the area. Mayors will also be able to create mayoral development corporations, which help to deliver large regeneration projects, which is what they did in London for the Olympics and Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games and the new sports district. However, recent changes means that mayors will not be allowed to chair these development corporations. It also extends to all mayors the power to impose community infrastructure levies on new developments, like a super-powered Section 106 payment, which can put money towards local infrastructure to support these new developments. There's also a bunch of other powers covering mobility schemes like Beryl bikes, or Boris bikes as they were in London, greater powers over major road networks in their areas, and the ability to put in either clean air or low emission zones, right through to adult education, visitor economy and health. Mayors will also take on the responsibilities of police and crime commissioners and the fire and rescue authority roles. So mayors make up part 1 and part 2 of the bill. But you'll also remember that there's a community bit to this bill. And this for me is where it gets interesting for us at a local level. The bill will allow for more community governance, essentially increasing the role and responsibilities of elected members to organise public services to meet local demands better, which will also make local plans more robust than they are now, and could give local people the ability to create improvement plans for their immediate areas, not just for town centre areas, through strengthened neighbourhood plans. That's a big commitment if they push that to its limits. However, the largest impact on community rights in the bill is a strengthening of the community right to buy introduced in the Localism Act 2011. This means that when an asset of community value, like a community centre or a pub, is put up for sale, community groups will be given an opportunity to buy it, with a 12-month window to raise funds to meet an agreed purchase price instead of 6 months. It also allows the community to nominate assets of community value before they are put up for sale or disposal, and it extends these strengthened rights to sports facilities, including automatic registration of all sports facilities and grounds as community assets. This means all council and local authority sports facilities could be protected or at least offered to community groups before any other form of disposal is considered. That's a bigger win for communities than some people would let you think, especially as some have labelled this land communism. But it means that parks, football fields and sports facilities have a greater protection in law than previously allowed. And fourthly and finally, the bill would ban commercial leases from including upward-only rent clauses. If I'm honest with you, this section seems a little odd to include in this legislation, but I'm sure there are reasons for it. Upward-only rent clauses are common in commercial leases and means rents will only ever increase, even if the rental market drops or the value of the property decreases. Landlords have previously followed an industry-approved code of practice with self-regulation, but the government thinks that they were basically doing a rubbish job of controlling it, so they decided to step in. It should mean that commercial rent on shops, hospitality and other commercial buildings stays fairly consistent and provides stability for the businesses using them, and will ultimately contribute to a thriving high street. But there are doubters. So, as you can see, the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill is full of measures that will have a dramatic impact on England's local government setup in time. More broadly though, it really does add to this feeling that we're in a period of significant political change, with devolution on a wide scale, votes for 16-year-olds and already announced minor electoral reforms. I've got this feeling that there could be even more significant changes ahead before the next general election. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below or on our social media channels, and if you've enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our future updates and content. Thanks for watching.